Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Sanjay. I am representing Dell EMC today here. It's my second Zinov conference. I want to bring this point. Last year when I attended, I was part of the audience, and we didn't have Dell Pride or we didn't have an ERG. And this year, I'm sitting here and representing Dell Pride India as well as Dell Pride Asia. We have come a very long way. So thanks to Zinov and all these wonderful people I met here, so we have made a great progress. All right, and today actually we would like to touch base on LGBT inclusion as well as person with disability inclusion, mostly related to the laws. So we have our wonderful guests here. So over to you, Sudha.
Hi, so just a quick introduction. I'm part of Nvidia, and I take care of all that's legal in Nvidia. So that's my defined role. And besides that, I am passionate about diversity and inclusion. So this actually struck me when I joined the board of Nvidia, and when I would introduce myself, people would ask me, are you a diversity hire, right? So we're not a listed company, but yeah, so that was the question that was asked, and that's when I took a step back, and I was like, okay, so people are, I don't know, sympathetic or empathetic, that they want to know if you've been hired because of some special reason, right? Or you've been included in the management because of a special reason. So I won't go any further on that. So Sanjay is your representative. Please feel free to ask questions. We've heard a lot about the challenges that the community is facing and what's going on.
Sure.
Yeah.
So let's just start with Section 377. You see, I mean, last year when we all met, we were only talking about how can we launch an employee resource group, or how can we start a conversation on, because the monster was there, the Section 377. Today when we are sitting here, it is such a happy feeling that, we don't have that baggage anymore, So let's just touch base on the on the judgment of Section 377, then we'll go ahead with the post Section 377. So first, over to you, Sudha, on the judgment.
So Sanjay calls it a monster of a law, right? So was it really the monster that we were hiding behind? Or, was it being used by organizations to make sure that they don't have to start doing something for the LGBT community to be more inclusive? Or was it really stopping them? So what was 377? 377, it criminalized sexual acts which were against the order of the nature. Basically, it was not procreative sex. It did not define about who. It also included, the opposite gender. So when we did not talk about what happens between the four walls of the house between a male and a female, did it actually, have to be something that stopped us as organizations to go all out in support of the community by saying that we are LGBTQ, inclusive?
Yes.
So that was one. And the second aspect I just want to bring about that it was such an archaic law. I'm not sure how monstrous it was, but it was enacted in the times of 1861 when Britishers were still ruling us, right? And Britishers themselves, about 50 years back, they decriminalized same gender sex, but we were still going on with it. It came into questioning a couple of times. In 2001, NAS Foundation questioned it in Delhi High Court by, challenging it. In 2009, finally, Delhi High Court had delivered a judgment saying that, it's not same-sex of consenting adults is not considered as a criminal act. But this was overturned in 2013 by the Supreme Court. They recriminalized, sex between consenting adults.
Correct. So now, when we talk about post Section 377, right, post like last year,
we
September.
We still haven't reached 377.
Okay. So 377. So my question is that a lot of organizations, including Dell EMC, we have actually were able to launch this employee resource group before, the decriminalization. And many of the organizations has done that. So in the current scenario, the post Section 377, my question is that, is it the conversation going to be easy for any new organization to start an employee resource group or affinity group? Is it going to be easy now that we don't really have this Section 377, exists?
So again, just to go back to where I was, that in 2013, when it was recriminalized, and then there was this NALSA judgment and a right to privacy judgment, which came out, which said that everybody, including transgenders, have a right to privacy, right, as a fundamental right. Comes under 14, 21, and 19, that they have a right to equality, right to not be discriminated, and a right to life with dignity. So these were the premises where finally, when we reached the Supreme Court, a 9-division bench overruled this, saying that except for sex which is with minors or animals, consenting adults can do what they like, right? So what I was trying to say was that even before, nothing stopped us. And now the organizations have no reason whether to start an employee resource group or anything else that they want for the sake of the community, right? And we were just listening to people from the community, I think more than the law. So law has never stopped us from doing something more. Even in prevention of sexual harassment at workplace, it covered protection to only women. But most organizations have gender-neutral policies. So in that aspect as well, in December 2018, there was a judgment by Delhi High Court where they included a transgender woman in the definition of woman in Section 354A, the protection under that. So I think that was a very progressive judgment, right? Because this transgender woman had complained against, some of the male who were harassing her based on her identity, which she had chosen to be. She identified as a woman. She went to file a complaint in the police, and the police refused, saying that there is no clarity that because it is her self-identified gender, whether they can take the complaint. So even before the High Court could, direct them that sex is not just the one which we are born with, but since she identifies as a woman, she should be provided protection. So for the sake of anonymity, the name wasn't taken and all of those things, but she was able to file a complaint under 354A. So I think the next step now is for the organizations to start including, making their prevention of sexual harassment policies at workplace where they include the transgender generation as well, the population, right?
Correct.
So that is an important aspect.
On that, the next step note, right? I mean, these days, the hot topic in the especially in the LGBT inclusion, are compliance and benefits. So when we talk about the compliance and benefits, so we have same-sex partner benefits, medical insurance benefits, and the second question will be that how this medical insurance benefit, especially when it comes to transgender employees, right? So I would like you to touch base on these three. So let's talk about first on same-sex partner benefits. So can we go ahead and do that? I know there are a few organizations which have already done it, and some are in the progress or in the conversation. So is there any legal aspect that which stops organization or insurance companies from implementing this?
Short answer is no.
Okay.
It's just that we are lazy, we don't want to do it. We don't want to think about a particular section of the society which we think is invisible, right? So we don't want to think about hiring them. We don't want to think about making them comfortable. And I think Naina, in the previous conversation, was just talking about the difficulties that the community faces. I think that is what needs to be addressed. So you said that we already have same partner insurance. I think that itself is a big question mark as of now, right? So the challenges are that the organizations don't have a domestic partner insurance. And even if they do, the insurance providers do not want to make it public. They don't want to talk about it.
Correct.
They put this embargo saying that, okay, we will give you if you're telling us to, because there's so much pressure, because it's money after all. But we don't want you to talk about it, right? But as we are initiating these discussions at workplace, this discussion has started, but we need to be more assimilative, right? To make sure that the inclusivity starts from the schools, from the workplaces, to where people, the mindset has changed.
Correct.
So law doesn't stop you. Law doesn't put a thing saying that, no, you can't.
Yes, but you see, from my experience, right, what I have understood is even though you say as a lawyer that, it doesn't stop. But when we start this conversation, I mean, insurance agencies just come up and say that, no, we don't want to, because there is no same-sex marriage exist. I understand that there are certain companies which are already done. So how can we make it easy, how can we convince this third-party insurance to accept our terms and conditions?
Organizations have a huge bargaining power. And if the industry comes together, I mean, insurance sector cannot refuse something of this sort. And it has to be that, we own up. Even if they're saying that do not publicize it, we talk about it, we initiate it.
Correct.
So when you said that there is no law again, so there is nothing that talks about live-in relationships as well, except for, Domestic Violence Act,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Where it is covered. In one of the judgments itself, it happened. So this is something that we have just started initiating. We need, progressive mindset first. Law is one thing. Law just takes care
Correct.
of one aspect, and we're not a laissez-faire state.
Yeah.
We want to be a social, a progressive state where we think about everybody being inclusive.
Yes.
And not hide behind the law.
Yes, absolutely. We just have to make especially the LGBT inclusion or any kind of inclusion in our DNA, and we need to do the awareness part and make the organization or the legal team or HR and compliance and benefit understand that.
So I think the bill that was the Right for Persons with Disabilities bill that was proposed, it was introduced in Rajya Sabha in 2016, but it
You're
never...
talking about the transgender bill?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, transgender bill,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, we will we will give a highlight on the transgender bill. Where are we right now on that?
So yeah, so I just wanted to say that when we're talking about law, we are also going back and forth. So we talked about 2001, the High Court, said that it's not criminal. Then 2013, Supreme Court said it is. Finally, with finality, now 377 has been struck down by a 9-division bench, which means it cannot be questioned again, right? It cannot be appealed against. So it is finality in that. But we've gone through these ups and downs because in 2014, there was this NALSA judgment, which was a game changer, right? Which talked about the right to self-identify without even going through the sex reassignment surgery, without SRS. So that was very important. It talked about the privacy. It talked about, that if I want to identify as a male, I can. If I want to identify as a female, I can. And it also talked about, social welfare schemes. It talked about assigning the community as a backward class so that there are reservations and they're promoted, in different sectors, they're given reservation. It's easier for them to find jobs.
Correct. And
but in 2000, so in this bill, we reversed it again, it's not been passed. Hopefully it'll change because the definition of transgender itself has been questioned by the community saying it's not scientific. And also it talks about a medical certification, which is a huge blow to the privacy rights of transgender people, right? So we've been going back and forth in terms of law. But again, like I said, that it does not stall the process which the organizations can start on, which a lot of progressive organizations like ThoughtWorks, like Dell, and there are many more, SAP, which have started on the journey even before 377 was decriminalized, right?
So fingers crossed on the transgender bill. And how about prevention of sexual harassment, right? Whether transgender employees are included in that? In the legal context?
So the act itself has not been amended. It does not. But like I said, that did not stop organizations from making their policies gender neutral. So, this Delhi High Court judgment that I talked about, which is as recent as December 2018, where the trans woman was included in the definition of woman. So it does not stop the organizations from being progressive and being more inclusive and amending their own policy internally. They don't have to wait for Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act to come into being, right? We don't have to trail behind the law and say that now that I have a fear of penalty, now I'm going to start making changes.
Correct. So again, I'm going back to the, the post Section 377 question. So you mentioned that, I know your answer was no, that, organization no need to be afraid of, coming out, or can the organization go ahead and say that, hey, we are LGBT inclusive? or in their social media or anywhere. So is there any legal barrier stopping the organization?
So Sanjay is asking me this question in different ways.
Yes, because we actually face, I know it's for a legal context, it becomes very easy, and your answer is like a black and white. But when we have this conversation at an workplace, we as an ERG leader or HR, we actually get these kind of questions. So I'm sure that in audience also, most of them might have faced this question. That's the reason I want you to clarify that.
No.
All right.
There is nothing that stops you from declaring you are, inclusive organization, you're LGBT friendly, and going all out on social media or anywhere else you choose to be. Like we take pride in, saying that we have very inclusive maternity benefit policies. We are starting paternity benefit also. So these are things that I think historically organizations were trying to find reasons to not initiate. A very big reason being they did not probably see any business sense, which has its own repercussions because maybe this, marginalized section of society, maybe there are people silently there in the workforce who haven't come out. Maybe they haven't been able to because we are not supportive, right? So we don't know. So it's something which is invisible. We don't want to really go into that, and we just want to hide behind saying that, no, legally it's not possible. And this is something which has been used as an excuse by, I won't say just HR, even by ERG groups, right?
All right. So, we have to cover the PwD part also. I know that we have spoken enough about the, LGBT inclusion. So now let's quickly jump into person with disability inclusion. We have the Right of Person with Disability Act 2016. So could you please give a highlights for, audience on that act?
So just quickly, I want to tell you about the right of persons with, disabilities. That is one act where there are penalties, right? If you don't comply. And the rules were notified in June. The act came into existence in April 2017, and June 2017, the rules were notified. It has various offenses mentioned where it says the first penalty will be worth about 10,000 K. Subsequent penalties will be 50,000. So here, the fear of not complying can still be there. But so what does it talk about for the private organizations? It definitely talks about certain things for the government sector. It talks about the certification, what are the benefits that they'll get in government. But what is mandatory for us in private organizations? To have an equal employment opportunity policy. This policy should include that what is it that we are doing, what are the posts that are identified, what are the benefits that are being given to the PwD sector.
So
right?
I want to check that, is there any auditing for this? Because why I want to ask this question is recently I went to one place and they had a great ramp, but even I myself cannot climb that ramp. It was in place and you cannot even climb the ramp. So when I asked them, why, it was a university actually, I was like, why do you have this ramp? They said, this is a part of the law, that because of the new law, we need to keep this. Same, another incident I want to bring out is the same thing. They have in the second floor, they have a toilet for disabled person. There is no lift. There is no way that anyone on the wheelchair can reach there. So do any auditing or any kind of government auditing is there for this?
So there is a 5-year timeline to comply, first of all, for existing organizations. So auditing hasn't even been thought of at the moment. So most organizations who are starting up their new offices, for them it's mandatory to adhere to these accessibility norms right from the start. But that's when they're trying to do a stopgap arrangement. And without naming any organization, I'm also aware of organizations who are taking reactive stance when, like one of the visually impaired person, he sued an organization for their recruitment website not being friendly because there was no audio and he was not able to find out what are the job postings that are there. As a result of which, it was introduced. So we're just kind of, slowly starting to think about it. Since, like I said, it's just in June 2017 that the rules were notified, and there are still 5 years, so we're taking it easy.
That's where actually the ERG leaders and all the initiatives come into picture, right? Even though the law is not there or there is no auditing, we all need to, make this in our DNA and implement this. One more actually.
So, Sanjay, I think it's become like a chicken and egg story. Most organizations say that we don't have people who need these things, so it's just done. But you will not have people because you don't have the facilities and you're not being inclusive, you're not giving out those signals, right?
Yep.
You're not prepared and you're not hiring anybody who will be, you know, a little different from what you are used to.
Yes. So we do have a time constraint. I have one more question, actually, last question. So I was actually surprised when I was talking to Deepa regarding a person with disability. I realized that even to get an LIC, right, life insurance, which most of us has, it becomes very difficult for a person with a disability. Or even if they're getting it, I mean, they may get a less coverage compared to an able person.
So this is
How
again,
in a corporate, I know that, you know, it's a bit tricky question, but in a corporate, how can we manage this, you know?
so in a corporate, you can't discriminate basis disability.
Can I just answer that?
Sure.
So there's actually IPI has issued guidelines to insurance companies that they cannot discriminate on the grounds of disability and they cannot even charge the extra premium and they should be able to they should actually provide the equivalent benefits that they give it to anybody else. There is actually a guideline given by IBI about 2-3 years ago.
Great.
And similarly, organizations, like I said, you cannot discriminate on basis of, you know, any disability.
All right.
Not just insurance, for any recruitment, for any promotion. In fact, the Act also provides protection to people who, you know, get into a disability. And I forgot to mention, a very good thing about this Act was that it recognizes mental disabilities as well.
Yep.
It also talked about acid attack victims. It includes them in this. And, you know, from the 7 disabilities that were organized, we've come to 21,
21,
where
that's it.
mental health issues are also,
Yes.
you know, ADHD and all these things, they're also included in it. So that I think is quite progressive. But like I said, for everything, we need a mindset change. It has to
Correct.
start from our minds, our,
Yes.
you know.